President, Mr. Pancic texted me and said he is on his way, will be here shortly.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call tonight's meeting, July 1st, 2020, Plan Commission regular meeting agenda, or meeting. So if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands,
under
one
God,
nation, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Just want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Again, as we are working through these remote meetings, I'll ask in advance for your patience and understanding as we go forward. With that, Margaret, can I get roll call, please?
Mr. Burleson?
Here.
Ms. Cardona is absent. Mr. Gill?
Here.
Here.
Mr. Gillette? Is absent. Ms. Little? Is absent. Ms. Wooland?
I'm here.
Mr. Kennedy?
Here. There are four members.
Mr. Eberly?
Sorry.
Here.
Mr. Kraus?
Here.
Attorney Decker?
Here.
And Mr. Pancic is en route, I believe.
He is here.
I'm here.
He's here. Okay, thank you.
There are four members, three present, one online, so we do have a quorum for tonight's meeting. Regarding minutes, if I can get a motion to approve the March 4th, 2020 meeting minutes, or a motion regarding the March 4th, 2020 minutes. If there's any questions or comments regarding those, or any changes that need to be made.
Make a motion for approval of March 4th, 2020 minutes for regular meeting.
I have a motion to approve by Bob. Do I have a second?
Second.
This is Nancy. I second that motion.
Nancy, did you second? We'll give you the second. I got a second by Nancy. Any comments or questions? Can I get a roll call then?
Mr. Burleson?
Yes.
Ms. Cardona is absent. Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette is absent. Ms. Little is absent. Ms. Wooland?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes, motion to approve March 4th minutes has been approved. Thank you.
And Mr. President?
Yes.
If you would mind entertaining a motion for the rest, they should be ready for you all at the August meeting. And I would ask that if it's all right with you, that for those that are absent, I just mark them absent for the rest of the roll call votes and only call those present. Is that all right with you?
That sounds great.
Thank you.
So then can I get so we're looking for a motion to defer the June 3rd Plan Commission regular meeting and then the two study sessions of May 20th and June 17th.
Make a motion to defer the regular meeting June 3rd and the study session May 20th, 2020 and June 17th, 2020.
I have a motion to defer. Do I have a second?
This is Nancy. I second that motion to defer.
I got a second. Questions or comments from the board? If not, we'll take roll call.
Mr. Burleson?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Ms. Wooland?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes, motion to defer passes. 1 second, please. Is there a pen? I don't want to take yours.
I got one here.
Thank you. All right, sorry about that. All right, next on the agenda is public hearings, item A and B. I'm going to turn over to, just for some housekeeping, some comments from Attorney Decker.
Mr. President, for items A and B, those are the applications and the petitions for rezoning of two parcels of real estate, which were the subject of the annexation to the town of St. John on January 1st of this year. The Lake Superior Court recently issued an order dated June 12th of 2020, and that order, which is 13 pages in length, provides in part that the court found that Town Ordinance Code Section 2442 is a valid and enforceable ordinance. And that is the ordinance that required any property that's annexed into the town to be zoned R1 classification unless there's a unanimous vote of the town council to do otherwise or to zone it in a different classification. The 111-acre parcel was the issue of Town Ordinance 1691, and the court found that it would be designated and shall be designated as R1 single-family residential zoning classification. With regard to, and that addresses item A. With regard to item B on the agenda, which is the 40-acre parcel regarding the White Oak Avenue and 109th Avenue, the court, in its order, and specifically in footnote 4 of that order, provides that the 40-acre parcel, which was annexed pursuant to Town Ordinance 1693, shall also be designated with an R1 single-family residential zoning classification. So therefore, as a result of the court's ruling, and the town attorneys and myself as the attorney for the Planning Commission are still reviewing that order, I would recommend to the board that it defer items A and item B at this time.
All right, bring it back to the board. Hearing a recommendation from our attorney, I'll bring it back to the board for discussion regarding deferring items A and B. Is there any discussion? With that, I will entertain a motion based on our attorney's recommendation to defer at this time, items A and B.
I'd like to make a motion to defer item A and B per Attorney Decker's, Mr. Decker's recommendation.
Why don't we make it to August meeting?
August.
I think it's August 5th, to our August 5th meeting.
To defer it to August 5th meeting.
Thank you, Bob. We have a deferral of items A and B to our August 5th, I believe the date is, our first meeting in August. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
John Gill has second. Questions or comments from the board? If not, Margaret, roll call, please.
Mr. Burleson?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Ms. Wooland?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes, motion to defer items A and B to our August meeting has been approved. Next on the agenda is a public hearing regarding Oak Ridge Estates. I see Mr. Kuiper in the room. Mr. Kuiper?
And if I might, Mr. Chairman, it might be easier if we took D and E based upon Attorney Decker's iteration of the court's order. We agree with that. The 111 acres is composed of item D and E. So we would request a deferral of those two items, so that might be easier just to take those and handle those if you wouldn't mind.
Okay. Is there a problem with going to D&E? Okay. With that, I'll bring it back to the board. The petitioner has requested a deferral of item D&E. Questions or comments? If not, I'll take a motion to.
I move that we defer items D and E on the agenda to the August 5th meeting based on Attorney Kuiper's request.
And then do I have a second?
Second.
I have a sec.
This is Nancy, I second that motion.
I'm sorry, Nancy?
She seconded it.
Oh, well, we got Bob. Thank you, Nancy. We're going to give it to Bob this time. We have any questions or comments? If not, Margaret, we'll get roll call going.
Mr. Burleson?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Ms. Wooland?
Yes,
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes, so items D and E have now been deferred or approved for deferral to our August 5th meeting. We'll go back up to item C.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, Tim Kuiper here on behalf of LBL Development LLC. Tonight, we're here on the Oak Ridge Estates subdivision petition. This is for 40 acres located on the corner, or the northwest corner of White Oak and 109th Avenue. This was originally annexed last year, zoned into the town on January 1st. This was also subject to the Resolution 2020-01-01 that the Town Council requested that you start a rezoning process to the Plan Commission, which that item was deferred above as item B. The court did issue an order on June 12th, 2020, and while a voluminous order, a footnote is not part of a court order. Specifically, it is numbered item 49 in the court order. The court specifically said the court limits its order with respect to Resolution 2020-01-01. And just again, that's the resolution that the Town Council requested that you guys look at rezoning these two parcels. That's A and B on your agenda. To the 111-acre parcel that is subject to the present dispute between the parties, and does not intend its order to include or affect the 40-acre parcel that is also addressed in Resolution 2020-01-01, because the 40-acre parcel is not part of the alleged agreements. So this item is proper for you tonight to review, to hearing, and move forward. And again, just for the record, it's item 49 on the June 12th, 2020 order under cause number 45D10 1802-PL-13. With that being said, Plan Commission members, this item was originally noticed up for March 4th. All of the notices and publications were in order at that time. Due to circumstances beyond all of our control, there was a lot of continuances in between. And I long for the day where we don't have to do the Zoom meetings anymore. But was properly continued, so it's properly before you tonight for a public hearing. This is a 78-lot subdivision. It has an R2C PUD, which is that conservation PUD. So it has large green space areas on the project, and this has been consistent since it was originally proposed last year to you. Sorry. Otherwise, the engineer has checked off as it meeting the requirements of your subdivision control ordinance. We believe we've met all the subdivision control ordinances for the RC2 PUD. And we're here tonight requesting that you approve that plat. Just as a reminder, Attorney Decker reminded you last month that you do have to provide written findings, either for or against, if you were to deny it or approve it. And that's pursuant to Indiana Code 36-7-4707, and that's subsection A or B, depending if it's an approval or a denial. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Otherwise, I'd ask that you open it up for the public hearing at the conclusion of that.
Understanding this is a legal issue, I will refer to my Planning Commission Corporate Counsel. How would you proceed with this then if there is a difference of opinion regarding petitioner and I think what you footnoted earlier in the meeting?
Well, Mr. President, as I indicated earlier, the court's order of June 12th of 2020 makes determination. Well, first of all, that makes determination in the footnote that I referenced, and it's footnote 4, which provides that it's a footnote to paragraph 41, which I'll read for the Plan Commission. Paragraph 41 provides that as a result, the court finds that Section 2442 is a valid and enforceable ordinance. The 111-acre property at issue in Ordinance 1691 shall be designated with an R1 single-family residential zoning classification. And footnote 4 is referenced and cited in that paragraph. Footnote 4 says, for the same reason, the 40-acre parcel annexed pursuant to Ordinance 1693 shall be designated with an R1 single-family residential zoning classification. Mr. Kuiper has indicated that paragraph 49 of the order provides that the court limits its order with respect to Resolution 2020-01 to the 111-acre parcel that is the subject of the present dispute between the parties, and does not intend its order to include or affect the 40-acre parcel that is also addressed in Resolution 2020-0101, because the 40-acre parcel is not part of the alleged agreements. So the fact that it's referring to the agreements basically goes back to the definition of the dispute as it was initially brought by BLB St. John LLC, which was presented to the court. It was briefed by the parties and ultimately resulted in the court's ruling of June 12th. And the request for relief that was sought by BLB was to enforce these settlement agreements or purported settlement agreements that had been reached previously between the town or its sanitary district and BLB St. John. I submit that the court is clear in its footnote that it views Town Code Section 2442, which is the provision that requires a unanimous vote of the town council when property is annexed into the town, for any zoning classification other than R1. So stated differently, if it's not a unanimous vote of the town council, then it has to come in as R1. And the court so concluded that that was the proper result for the 111 acres and has indicated in its footnote that that is the proper result for the 40 acres, which is the subject of the pending application before the Plan Commission tonight. So I submit that it's clear what the court's ruling is regarding its interpretation and the application of Town Code Section 2442, that it applies to the 111 acres and also applies to the 40 acres.
All right,
If I could, Mr. Chairman?
absolutely.
Because it's a footnote, again, as I argued, it's not part of the actual order itself, and the court clarifies itself later on in that specific provision that says it does not intend this order to include or affect the 40-acre parcel. The reason is because it didn't have subject matter jurisdiction over that. It wasn't part of the dispute. It only got dragged in because it was part of that resolution that included the other property. So it's my belief that the court specifically put that, recognizing it didn't have subject matter jurisdiction over that. Now, I apologize for having to include you in this and you guys in this, but it is a legal issue. I understand that. Our position is that we're entitled to move forward tonight on this, with it being zoned R2 CPUD. Clearly, Attorney Decker has a different understanding, and I appreciate that. But like I said, we're requesting to move forward on this tonight.
Is there any way the court would give clarification on that difference of opinion between the petitioner and the town? I'm concerned with taking any type of action if there is a difference of opinion at this time. But, I mean, I see what you, Adam, I see what you're saying. They said the 111 acres is annexed at R1 because it was not a unanimous vote. So if that's the case, at the court's opinion, then why doesn't that carry over to the 40 acres? Because the 40 acres, again, was not a unanimous vote when it was brought into the town. But again, I am not briefed on the whole legal, so,
Appreciate that.
Yeah, Mr. President, I can add, so to answer your question, this issue, this difference of opinion or difference in interpretation of the court's order may in fact have to be determined and decided by the court, either the Lake Superior Court or perhaps by the Court of Appeals. I understand that BLB St. John LLC has initiated an appeal of this court's decision dated June 12th. So I submit that there would be no determination, or at least a judicial determination, of this difference of opinion anytime soon, meaning that that issue would have to be briefed to the court, and then the court would have to eventually rule on that. And if passed as prologue, it took several months for these issues to be briefed and presented to the court, arguments rendered, and then the court's decision dated June 12th.
okay. Tim, you still want to proceed forward without
Mr.
deferral?
Chairman. Yes, please.
I'll bring it back to the board for discussion. Are there any comments, questions?
Mr. Decker, say that about the appeal. St. John appealed right after June 12th?
No,
Or
no.
who appealed?
So BLB
What's BLB?
St. John, that's the
Developer.
applicant in this
Okay.
case. Yeah, Mr. Kuiper's client is BLB St. John LLC. And they have initiated the appeal to have this case basically appealed to the Indiana Court of Appeals.
Okay.
That process will take months. There's a briefing, there are briefs that will be submitted over the period of the next several months. There may or may not be an oral argument in Indianapolis before the Court of Appeals before a decision is ultimately rendered on that appeal.
So saying that, then it's in the court's decision if this goes to R1 or RC2 PUD.
Well,
Is that a correct statement, or?
Well, Mr. Burleson, I would say this, that as of today, we have the June 12th, 2020 order. And counsel and I have both read provisions of that order. This order is valid. It's not invalid simply because it's being appealed by one of the parties to the case. And so I would submit that until the Court of Appeals renders some ruling that invalidates all or some portion of this order, the order is valid.
Okay.
So we're guided by the terms of the order of June 12th, 2020, as we move forward for purposes of tonight's hearing.
So again, I'll bring it back to the board if they have any, how they would like to proceed.
Well, Mr. President, let me make a comment, and I'll ask Attorney Decker to correct me if I'm wrong, but Mr. Kuiper is not asking for a deferral of this matter this evening. That does not mean that you can't defer it if you don't feel comfortable or ready to make a decision on the matter. I believe, Mr. Decker, is that correct? The Plan Commission is not forced into a position to approve or deny this matter this evening.
But we
Mr.
can defer.
Mr. Eberly, I believe that's a correct statement. There's no legal obligation on the part of the Plan Commission to make either an affirmative vote to either approve or to deny the application for primary plat approval this evening.
With all due respect, Indiana Code 3674 700 series is absolutely clear that platting is a ministerial act. And once presented before you, you either have to approve or deny. Now, if you didn't have a quorum, that would be a different story. But otherwise, we're before you tonight saying that it's R2C PUD. Attorney Decker has said that it's R1. You can make that determination of what standards you're applying, but we're moving forward on the R2C PUD. It's been that way for 6 months. Our plat's been here. The engineer said everything's in order for that. So that determination can ultimately be made by you, but we're requesting to move forward tonight and requesting a decision. And I appreciate the position you're in, and I apologize for having to put you in it, but this has been going on for some time, and we need some decision on it, again, pursuant to those code sections.
And I appreciate your,
Mr. Decker, would there be a third choice, a deferral, since it's in the courts right now? Mr. Kuiper's saying there's option A of approving it or option B of denying it. But if it's in the courts, I would think there'd be option C of deferring it. But
Mr. Burleson, I submit that, as I indicated earlier, I do consider that an option. Mr. Kuiper's indicated to the members that he wishes to proceed with a vote, that he does not want to defer this, or his client does not want to see this deferred. But to answer your question directly, Mr. Burleson, I do consider that an option.
I would further add then, Mr. President, that if you're going to make a decision on this, and our council is advising us that this is zoned R1, then from a staff review point of view, this plat that you have in front of you does not meet R1 standards.
so
Not
when,
20,000 square feet, doesn't have proper lot sizes. It does meet positively many of the items, and by the way, all of you have a copy of the findings of fact in your packets. Findings of fact for preliminary, parentheses, primary plat of subdivision. And there are 7 conditions there, and the plat meets several of those. But it does not meet number 1. And there may be some others that it doesn't meet as well. But it doesn't meet all of them. And I believe, as we've talked about previously, in order to be approved, it would have to meet all of the conditions. In order to be denied, it can meet some and not others.
I believe that's a correct statement, Mr. Eberly.
So it's the zoning of the parcel, and we're being advised by Mr. Decker that the parcel, per the order, is R1.
and I'll bring it back to the board, we could proceed with the hearing. And as you have heard, the town's opinion by their attorneys, our attorney, that this is R1, and that therefore would not meet the R1 classification. So it's up to the board to decide if we want to open up the public hearing.
Well, you have to open the public hearing.
Okay.
And accept any comments, and then you'll have to decide what motion you're
Okay.
going to make and
Okay,
That's correct.
approve.
very good. Any more questions for Tim before I open it up to the public hearing?
And by the way, Mr. President, I do concur with Mr. Kuiper that all items are in order for this petition to proceed with its public hearing. Everything was done properly back when it was scheduled for the March 4th public hearing.
And we appreciate your patience with that, Mr. Kuiper. All right, we will, Tim, if you don't have any more comments, we will open up the public hearing for Oak Ridge Estates.
And Mr. President, before I forget, we do have a written petition that you also have in your packets from folks living near the project objecting to the project.
Understand.
That's the only remonstrance, formal remonstrance I have of any kind towards this project.
Margaret, would you want me to read that into the record after public comment here?
That's up to you, Mr. President, if you'd like to read it into the record or just reference it for exhibit.
Okay, very good. At this time, I will open up to the public for any public comment regarding the plating of Oak Ridge Estates. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make any comments?
Good evening, Plan Commission. Paul Panzik, 8410 Magnolia Street. I approach you as a resident. I would be concerned if you were to approve a plat that is not meeting the requirements of the current zoning as dictated by the town attorneys. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak? If not, I will read into the record a petition that I received that looks like to have 70, approximately 70 signatures. It is addressed to the St. John Building and Zoning regarding Oak Ridge Estates development. It says, "Gentlemen, the residents of White Oak Manor respectfully ask that you deny the proposal of the R2C development at 109th and White Oak and rezone the property back to R1 development only." And again, we are hearing from our town attorney, our Plan Commission attorney, that it is currently already at R1. Attached are the signed petitions of the concerned residents of the area. We are opposed due to the residents of White Oak were not advised of the change in the rezoning from R1 to R2. The proposed concentrated layout will decrease the present and future value of homes in and around the area of White Oak Manor. The Hanover school system is at a maximum capacity. The residents of White Oak are concerned about the traffic on 109th and White Oak and the difficulties it presents to get in and out of the neighborhood. The roads on White Oak and 109th need widening, stoplights, and repair. The additional homes will overtax the present public works, police, fire, and emergency departments. There is no mention of increasing the necessary personnel to accommodate more families or growth in the areas. Respectfully submitted. Again, this is not a zoning question. This is a preliminary plat. So just for the board's understanding.
And Mr. President, just for the sake of clarity, the actual name of the development is Oak Ridge, not Oak Ridge Estates. As I have on the agenda, remember that the agenda dates actually way back to March. At the time, it was actually called White Oak. But now the correct name is Oak Ridge, and that is two words, two separate words.
Gotcha.
Just for clarity of the record.
All right, once again, I will open it up for any more comments before I close the public hearing. 1, 2. Public hearing is now closed. Tim, if you want me to repeat any of those remonstrance bullet points, I will. If you didn't catch them, I know I read that a little bit quick, but
No, I believe, actually, for your record, that petition actually has to do with item B on your agenda for the rezoning, and not addressing the plat issues, but it has to do with the rezoning, just for clarification.
all right. Very good. Any comments for Tim's? Questions, concerns? If not, I will entertain a motion. Our choices are, we could either deny, approve. Third option is defer. But again, you have heard the opinions of Tim, our attorney, and Tim would like a decision. The petitioner would like us to make a decision regarding this plat.
I'd like to make a motion for item C, Oak Ridge, to defer based on the findings of fact from attorney Mr. Decker.
Is there a second?
This is Nancy. I second the motion to defer.
We have a second discussion. I'll just make the discussion point. Unless Mr. Decker feels that his opinion will change between now, I think we should, I understand what you're saying, but unless Adam Decker, or Mr. Decker feels like his opinion will change, I think we need to take some form of action versus a deferral. But that is my opinion, and I'm only, now we'll need all four to agree,
Need a
correct?
unanimous vote in
We will
order
need a
to
unanimous
correct.
vote, but,
Take any action tonight, since there's just four of you here.
so then hypothetically, 3 defer, 1 says no,
It's no
it's
action.
no action.
Yes.
All right, we have a first and a we have a motion and a second. You heard my comments. Any other comments, concerns? Margaret, roll call, please.
Mr. Burleson?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Ms. Wooland?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
And I am no, because I think we should take action on this. With a non-majority vote, it then goes, we would have to
Ask for another motion.
ask for, is there another motion other than to defer?
So can I ask a question? So
You sure
then
can, Nancy.
Our other choices are to approve or deny.
Approve or deny or defer? That was a.
No, the other choices she's
Oh,
asking.
other choices, yes. Approve or deny.
Okay.
Not hearing
And
enough.
from what I,
Oh.
and from, go ahead. Somebody else is talking.
No, that was me, Nancy. I was just, if I didn't hear another motion, I was just going to, if I didn't get another motion, I'm not gonna, I don't know if there's an obligation I need to wait for, or,
If I could again, it's our opinion that the property is zoned R2 CPUD, that we've met the plat requirements for that. So we're asking for a motion to approve that. If you so choose, you can deny it also. Those are your options at that point. Hopefully that helps clarify it.
And Mr. Chair?
But my concern is, you believe that it's R1 zone, so how can you deny something if it's R1 zone? We're not, that's.
well, we
you're
deny,
looking at
we
this
deny
plat.
it because he is proposing a plat that is RC2 PUD.
That meets the requirements of an RCPTD. So if
He
you
is
do
saying
not
that-
believe that it meets those R1 requirements and you believe it's R1, then that would be the proper thing for you to do. If you believe it is R2 CPUD and it meets those requirements, then you could do a motion to approve.
So the petition, and.
Does it meet all the R2 PUD, RC?
It meets the conditions of the RC2 PUD
Then why would we deny it?
because it's zoned R1.
Because of the, there's a difference of opinion, and I'm not an attorney, Bob, so.
But then
hold
that's
it to
why
me.
we- that's why we
I think
defer it,
you're
though.
accurate, you're accurately reflecting the discussion. I understand. And
Right.
so
So we have a difference of opinion on the court case. And Mr. Deckard is saying that his evaluation of the hearing, or of the ruling, is that this is R1. The petitioner's understanding of the ruling is that it's R2, RC2 PUD.
Yeah.
So with that understanding, Tim Kuiper's understanding, and Tim, if I'm putting words in your mouth, please stop me, he feels that he should be able to move forward with this plat. So the question, it comes down to, and I feel your pain. I feel your pain. I feel your
Maybe
pain.
I'm playing a little too
No.
much lawyer, but, or.
And I
you know,
apologize to
I have
begin
no
with.
place in that
Is this-
position, but.
Maybe Tim, the petitioner, did you appeal this decision on this development?
we have not, I'm sorry, not on this development. As I stated before, we do not believe that this 40-acre development is subject of the lawsuit.
So the appeal is on the 111 acres.
Correct, in the current lawsuit that's currently going on.
Okay.
And I appreciate the position you're in. You understand the position I'm in. You understand what your counsel has told you. I understand if you have to follow your counsel. I appreciate all those things, but I need a decision to move forward based upon what I believe to be the zoning and meeting the plat requirements for that.
And I understand the reference of code you did regarding we have to, but we have deferred action items before on preliminary plats.
So if there is something missing or otherwise, you can do that. But the code is pretty clear that it's a ministerial act for plats, and it either meets the requirements or it doesn't meet the requirements. The only time typically for subdivision plat approvals is when the petitioner requests or some other thing is needed or something. Again, typically. If there's no action, that's also another time where it's kind of automatically deferred.
I understand. Or there's a
Problem
pandemic.
is the zoning. I mean, one says R1, You say our,
You-
well, I mean, how can we deny something if it's not even,
Could I make a suggestion for two alternative motions? One could be a motion to approve based upon what's presented, meeting the R2C PUD requirements. The alternative could be a motion to deny for not meeting the R1 requirements. Just to help. I'm trying to take the pain out of this.
Right.
well, what does that,
And I'm,
what does that do though? Because how long is it gonna take the courts to decide? Could be months, right?
Well,
So-
and why
So
would-
where are we at?
Mr. Chairman?
Does that even help you?
Why would
if
you
it's
recommend?
platted?
I'm sorry, Bob.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a statement? Just to maybe, and Mr. Kuiper's made a very good statement right there. You have two choices. So your town attorney is saying it is R1. In fact, two town attorneys are saying it's R1. I understand Mr. Kuiper has a difference of opinion. I respect that. But your town attorneys, you have two of them, they're saying it's R1. As Mr. Kuiper said, it's a ministerial act. So if you're to measure the plat against the standards, it does not meet them if you are to take our town attorney's advice, and then you would deny it. So it's your choice on where to go with that, but it's a ministerial act. If you ignore our town attorney's advice and think it's, R2 PUD, then you'd have to approve it. It's one or the other, and he's asking for a decision. So as a plan commissioner, you're supposed to follow state statute, and he's asking you to follow state statute. And as it sits today, Adam Decker has clearly stated that both he and our town council attorney, that this is R1. So I would recommend, as a council person liaison here, to respect their advice, at least for the time being. That would probably be the solid footing. So whatever decision you make, I would respect their advice.
Tim, you made a suggestion to make two motions. How does, and maybe.
One of two motions.
One
Oh,
of
I
two
just said
motions, one to
as an
approve it as,
alternative, yes.
and then, and what does, that would be unique to my experience here on the plan commission, so what does that do? Does it,
I apologize if I was unclear. I was just saying you could make one of those two. I'm trying to
Oh, yeah. Oh, no,
boil
yes.
down the issue for you so that
Oh,
it's just clear for you guys, so it just helps out.
oh, no, yeah, it's either
One or the other.
It's either R1 and you deny the RC2 PUD, or you believe it's still zoned RC2 PUD and you approve it.
Correct.
Yes.
I'm good.
You're good with.
All emotion.
Any other questions or concerns, comments for Tim? Nancy, before I ask for a motion, any comments?
No, I'm good.
All
Thank
right,
you.
I will re-entertain any new motion since the first one did not pass.
Like to make a motion to deny item C, Oak Ridge, based on the findings of fact from Mr. Decker.
And let me just, Bob, do me a favor, reference number 1. That was the one. There are 7 references of fact, but please reference number 1 of the finding of.
What I would like you to do is take each one individually and make your determination as to whether it does or does not meet the condition listed. So if you'd like, I'll read those so that everybody understands what it is that you're considering, or Bob can, whoever wants to do it, can read those. But you need to have a findings of fact to support your decision.
You got the motion?
Number 1, that the plat does or does not provide for acceptable
You gotta pick one of those.
You need
Oh.
to choose that.
does not provide for acceptable establishment of minimum width, depth, and area of lots within the subdivision inasmuch as it does not meet with minimum requirements of the St. John zoning ordinance.
So
That would
since
be
it
for-
doesn't meet that one, it could meet all the remaining, but since it doesn't meet that one.
That would be for R1, correct?
be for R1.
For R1, correct.
Thank you.
Rick, do you want him to read through the other remaining 6?
Mr. Decker, would you recommend that he go through the rest of them as well?
Yes, I would, because those other findings may be applicable to the
Agreed.
particular zoning classification. And Mr. Eberly, you may be able to provide some assistance as to
Right.
certain of those items. But yes, I would ask Mr. Burleson, as part of the motion, to go through each of those items.
Number 2, that the plat
I'd say does not.
does, yeah, provide for acceptable minimum provisions for building separation, vehicular circulation and parking, compatible site improvements and signage inasmuch as it does meet the minimum requirements of the St. John zoning ordinance. That, number 3, that the plat does provide for the coordination of subdivision streets and entrances with existing and planned streets and highways. Number 4, that the plat does provide for the coordination with an extension of facilities included in the comprehensive master plan, including appropriate sanitary sewer, water, and storm water facilities. That the plat does provide for the fair allocation of areas for streets, parks, schools, public and semi-public buildings, homes, utilities, businesses, and industry. That the
Rick,
plat,
wait, I'm sorry. Rick, for the next one, I can't remember in our zoning comprehensive plan, is that area that's annexed, is that supposed to be R1? Because then the next one would not qualify if it's in the St. John Comprehensive Master Plan. That's how I'm reading it, but I could be incorrect.
If I could interject, I believe it calls for R2. It does not call for R2 CPUD. So I don't think if it was R1
Okay.
or R2, it would not fit specifically for that, just to maybe,
Can't recall what that,
so which one
Number
is it?
6 I see as a does.
does, okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Number 6, that the plat does provide for distribution of population and traffic in a manner tending to create conditions favorable to health, safety, convenience, and harmonious development of the town of St. John, inasmuch as this development is in the compliance with the goals and requirements of the town of St. John Comprehensive Master Plan currently in effect.
And number 7?
That the plat, including the entire layout of the subdivision as well as how the plans affect the surrounding area.
Does.
That might be a matter of opinion there.
It doesn't.
Does?
Yeah.
Does promote the health, safety, morals, comfort, prosperity, and general welfare of the town of St. John.
So I have a motion to deny referencing the finding of fact. Is there a second?
This is Nancy. I second that motion to deny.
I have a second to deny. Questions or discussion from the board? If not, roll call.
Mr. Burleson?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Ms. Wooland?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes, motion to deny passes 4-0. or passes 4-0. Jim, thank you
Thank
for
you.
your patience and
No, appreciate
Understanding.
the position you're in also. Thank you for getting through that tonight. Have a good evening.
Yes. Oh, that's, yeah.
You got approved by Ken. All right, thank you everyone for your patience with that. Next on the agenda, item F, AC Holding. I understand the petitioner is withdrawing its application to rezone the land at the 9500 block of White Oak Avenue.
That's correct, Mr. President. You have a letter in your packet to that effect. Mr. Decker, would that be sufficient to acknowledge, read into the record that letter, or would you recommend there be any kind of motion taken to deny the petition, or simply an acknowledgement of the withdrawal?
I would submit that acknowledging the withdrawal would be appropriate, that it would not be necessary for the Plan Commission to take a formal vote to deny because of the withdrawal having been submitted in writing, and so I think that would be sufficient.
All right, then I will read into the record the withdrawal letter, and it is dated June 24th to the St. John Plan Commission. It says, members of the Planning Board, AC Group Holdings LLC would like to withdraw its petition for rezoning of the 2.3 acres located at 9541 White Oak from open space to R1. Sincerely, Anthony Casboni. So with that, petition will be withdrawn from the Plan Commission. Item number 6, old and new business, Shops 96 secondary plat revision. Rick,
Right, that's not ready to go, Mr. President. Mr. Pancik's probably a little more familiar with that than I am, but there's a swap of land that still hasn't been accomplished. Is that correct, Mr. Pancik?
That's correct. There's still some minor adjustments that need to be made.
Very good. With that, bring it to the board. If we can get a motion to defer to our August 5th meeting.
Make a motion to defer Shops 96 secondary plat revision to the August 5th meeting.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second from John Gill. Questions or comments? Discussion? Margaret, roll call, please.
Mr. Burleson?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Ms. Wooland?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes, motion to defer passes. Next on the agenda is just notification to the public that there will be a public hearing on August 5th, 2020, for rezoning of the property at 9541 White Oak Avenue from open space to R1 Single Family Residential. In our packets, we have a sketch of what that will look like. They'll come before the study session, Rick, I would imagine, for additional questions and comments from the board. I don't see anyone here.
Yes, they will.
Okay, they'll come before there's no action required from this board unless there's any comments or questions you'd like to make now. If not, we shall see them at the study session. All right. Nancy, anything before? If not, I'll move on. And
No.
then also, we have another announcement to make to the general public that there will also be another public hearing on August 5th for the primary plat of Three Springs Unit 3, Block 1. In our packets, we also have the layout from DVG regarding Three Springs, which I think we're all very familiar with. Any questions? And Doug will be here as well, I would imagine, at the study session for us.
Yes.
Thank you. With that, it is time for public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make a comment?
Mr. Pancik, was there anyone who signed up next to you there? I don't believe there was.
No, there's not.
Is there anyone from the board? I'll ask one more time. Anyone from the public? Anyone from the board? Paul or Councilman? Rick? Adam? Anybody else would like to make a comment before we adjourn? All right. If I can get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I got a motion, second?
Second.
No roll call needed. All in favor? Aye.
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 There we go. Thank you, everyone. And sorry, Margaret, for keeping on turning off my microphone.
You're fine, sir.